Hello, in this video I'm going to be doing a quick overview of the Prowler. This is not going to be a proper full review as I already have done that on this channel before, so if you do want to check that for more gameplay or for just everything about the tank, you can go check my channel and find the other Prowler review I have done. But the Prowler is going to be available completely for free in the No Man's Land event, which is pretty cool, as this is basically the first time the Prowler is being properly released to the public, since before this you could only get it through a very minuscule chance and by buying something which costed real money only. So this is basically the tank's first release, and the fact you can get it completely for free in an event, I think that's pretty cool. I've already done a breakdown for how you can complete this event and how to get to the Prowler on the channel, so if you want to know about that you can check that out. But basically you can get this tank either for free or by going along this mercenary path which costs gold. So if you don't have time you can spend the gold. If you got the time to grind you can get the tank for free, so that's pretty cool. But the Prowler, it is a very unique tank in tier 8. It hasn't got the best of armor, but it does have very good mobility, and it's super customizable in terms of how you can set it up. So let's actually quickly get into the tank, its stats and everything. You can find a review on my website, finally, if you do want to check that out as well. But you can see here Prowler is not the most armoured of tanks. The nice thing is that even when you load gold, the armour doesn't really change much, as it has a very strong upper plate and turret cheeks. The main thing is you have a big weak lower plate, and your turret front is pretty weak to standard ammo from same tier heavy tanks. And, well, that's just the thing, it's same tier heavy tanks. Against higher tier heavy tanks it'll still basically be the same, but against lower tier heavy tanks you can actually manage to bounce a bit, as lower tier heavy tanks generally have lower penetration, unless you're facing something like a T-29 or a Tiger 1, which have almost 200mm of penetration. But if you're facing a regular enemy with like 170, 180mm, they're going to struggle to go through the front of this thing's turret a bit more, and you can, well, use it more like a proper heavy tank when you are facing tier 7 enemies. But yeah, Prowler's armor, it's okay. Not the worst, not the best. I'm going to skip over the gun for now and talk about the mobility, because armor works in conjunction with mobility. The more armor you have, the less mobility you have, for the most part. And that's true in this case. The tank is very quick. In this case it has 6% gear oil equipped, so your top forward speed is actually 47 kilometers per hour, not 46 as shown here. It's 47, and your reverse speed is 14, which isn't the best. If you take gear oil off, it goes down to 10, which is horrendous. But you're very quick, high power to weight ratio, you weigh 55 tons, so you can actually do a good bit of ramming in this tank, especially for how quick you can get up to your top speed, especially on hard terrain, and it traverses super quickly for a heavy tank. On medium terrain it's still pretty mobile, but 13.5 horsepower per ton just isn't built to reach a top speed of 47, so for the most part you won't be going like 47, but maybe around like 40, 42 on medium terrain. But still, it's really good for a heavy tank, especially considering your armor isn't complete paper. You can still bounce shots, which you'll see a bit in the replays. Just keep moving, bait shots, and enemies will still miss or bounce off the red bits of your armor. Now, the gun this thing mounts is pretty unique. It's kind of what sets it apart from other heavy tanks with a similar gun. It's a 120mm, it's got pretty decent penetration, in fact it's fine penetration for a heavy tank. Alpha damage is what's special though, 420. Other heavy tanks in tier 8, most of them just have 400, and most of them also have a worse reload than this. Most have like 12 or 12.2 seconds of reload time. This has, well, it says 11.7 here, but if you do have, well, take off small food for a different provision, then it will be 11.9, and it's pretty good DPM for 420 alpha. Most 400 alpha damage guns have not even 2100, so this with 2150, it's pretty nice. Aim time isn't the best, along with the base aim time, and the on-move handling is really not good, but it's still better than tanks like the IS-5, the IS-6, the IS-3, and the dispersion of 0.344 is actually pretty nice for 420 Alpha. So it's not accurate, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And then it has 7 degrees of gun depression, which isn't the best, but it's still pretty decent enough to be comfortable. Now, before I get into the gameplay, I do want to really quickly compare this to the IS-5, as the IS-5 has since been buffed since the original review I did of this tank. Now, the IS-5's gun is much worse, so that's a big upside the Prowler has over the IS-5. It's a lot more accurate, it's got higher alpha, it's got higher DPM, it's just a much nicer gun for the Prowler. What is slightly worse on the Prowler now is the mobility, since the IS-5 now has all the same consumables and provisions as the Prowler, but it also gets that terrain resistance equipment, which you can see here. It does make it a bit faster than the Prowler on all terrain types. Not too much on medium terrain, but on hard terrain it's really quite noticeable. But that's not to say that the Prowler is slow. The IS-5 is the only thing that can give the Prowler a run for its money in terms of its mobility. It's just a super quick heavy tank, and you'll have seen that if you watched the first gameplay video I did of the Prowler on this channel. On top of this, IS-5 it's got better HP, and it's also got better armour. The thing with the IS-5 though, if you've played the tank, you'll know its gun is horrible, and having higher levels of mobility does not help that. So the Prowler, its main upgrade is just having a much better gun, and on top of that, 7 gun depression instead of 5. Now, like I said, you can customize this tank to however you want to play it basically. I personally would recommend improved engine power boost and tungsten shells, as this thing, you can tell, its armor is kind of balanced around being a quicker heavy tank, so engine power boost plays into that. And on top of it, it has really nice alpha damage, so tungsten rounds also plays into that. Reticle calibration and adrenaline are still good choices if you want to change out one of these for that, but I would say avoid reactive armor. Prowler isn't a damage soaking heavy tank. Sure, it's still useful for some situations, it's just not really maximizing on what this tank does well. Same thing for provisions. Avoid sandbag armor and improved gunpowder. They don't maximize on what this tank does well, and honestly, if you wanted a heavy tank that had good HP, you wouldn't be using this one, as this only has a lowly 1700 base. Go with gear oil, fuel and food on this, as it maximizes your great mobility, your great top speed, and it importantly gives you an extra 4 km/h reverse speed, which, like I said, without gear oil you'd be reversing at 10 km/h, which is super slow. And this is my equipment setup for the tank. I don't think I really need to go through it. If you do want to know why I've chosen this as my equipment, you can check my original Prowler review on this channel. So before I forget, I do want to mention this tank does have 3 mechanics. Combat stabilization is probably the most useful one. It means you're really accurate when you're moving at slow speeds. Emergency track means you won't get tracked basically. If you're already moving in reverse, it means you'll basically keep that momentum in reverse and you won't actually stop in place. And then track regenerator allows you to repair your tracks really quick, like 2.5 or 3 seconds track repair time. But let's get into the gameplay. Now this game, it's perfect. It shows really everything about this tank. Unfortunately, I do not have improved engine power booster on, as this was a new press account and I just kind of defaulted to adrenaline. But that was a mistake. I don't get any value out of adrenaline in this game, and I would say it's not nearly as good as the engine power booster, just because it has a much slower cooldown, 80 seconds, which is just, it's too slow for me, and it kind of doesn't work in conjunction with tungsten so well because of that much slower cooldown. But you can see here about this tank's mobility. It's so quick. I don't even have the engine power booster on, but I'm in front of the Chimera and the other medium tanks on my team, and I'm going to go take a medium tank position. Now that is a pretty lucky shot there on the CS. A bit of a low roll. 380 alpha, this thing does 420, but oh well. Now I'm going to activate tungsten. get 483 damage on the AMX AC, and that is the exact average roll of tungsten shells, 483 when you do use tungsten. But here you can see it's just basically a chimera. It's a heavy tank chimera. You get into position quickly, you got the high alpha, you got the consumables to kind of use against enemies. That there was a bit unfortunate on the dispersion, but it does also kind of show you that this tank's accuracy is not the greatest. It's not nearly as bad as like an IS-5 or an IS-6, but it's still not super impressive or anything like that. But there you can see both the quick track repair and the reserve track coming in play. But basically, what I've done here is how I would recommend playing the Prowler. It's a big heavy tank with a lot more hit points than a medium tank would have, and a lot more mobility than a heavy tank would have. So I kind of play it like a medium, right? You get to the medium flank, you absolutely dominate with your higher hit points, your better armor, your higher alpha damage, and you kind of encourage your medium tanks to make the push through to take out the enemy medium tanks and win the flank. And then you get behind the enemies and you deal damage that way. It's not really a frontline heavy tank where you use your armor, you soak damage, you trade damage. It's more of, well, a kind of breakthrough, push through the enemy lines type of heavy tank. And I'd say it feels quite like a chimera in terms of how it plays. Especially that it has the kind of almost similar armor, as in it's not quite super strong and reliable, but it's good enough to get bounces. And you'll see here Adrenaline doing absolutely nothing for me. I do reload a bit quicker here, but I didn't really need it to get that shot off on the Tiger II, or this next subsequent shot, which is also going into the Tiger II. But that's just my personal choice. Sure, Adrenaline may work well for you if that's how you want to play it, but for me, I would much rather have that engine power boost, because the difference in mobility of having that engine power boost and not is maddening. It's basically a medium tank, or faster than a medium tank when you do have that engine power booster on. But yeah, that is the Prowler. Basically just a really big medium tank. And it's very unique in terms of how its gameplay is. But you can see there, 3,750 damage. It didn't even feel like it took too long to get that. And making 112,000 credits without any booster. So that's mainly coming from the extra medals and badges we got in that battle. But yeah, the Prowler, really unique tank. And I would say if you like the idea of a quick heavy tank with a pretty nice gun, to be fair, and not the worst armor, it's definitely worth grinding in this event. And I would say don't just pass it off just because you have the IS-5 and the IS-5 is quicker and better armored. Its gun is so much worse, the IS-5, and it's not quite the same feel as the Prowler. This thing really feels a lot more reliable because that gun hits harder and it's more accurate. You've got more gun depression and you're just as quick, really, especially when you do use the engine power boost. You just get into position so fast and you can really just outplay players using that good mobility and getting there just a lot quicker than the enemy team. But yeah, it's a really interesting, unique tank. I really like playing this tank, and I think there's not really much in the game which kind of plays like the Prowler, and I think it's a great reward to have in this event, especially as you can earn it completely for free. So I definitely recommend going for it if you can and have the time to, but if you don't, it's not the worst thing in the world to miss out on this, as the IS-5 you can still get pretty close in terms of the gameplay of the Prowler. But yeah, that is it for the Prowler. Thanks all for watching.